Hi, I'm Maria Karras, and I serve out of the New Haven Public Schools Food Services Department. Over my 2 years of service, I've made an effort to take lots of pictures and save pieces of everything that I've been a part of. I recently got to go through my desk drawer where I stored all of the things I wanted to save, and I put everything together in a scrapbook. So now I get to share some of my favorite and most meaningful parts of service with you. I'm going to rush through last school year, but it was a totally different experience than this school year. New Haven was doing fully remote learning, and then we went to a hybrid learning model, so I didn't get to spend a ton of time with kids until the end of that school year. I got to support the food service department in emergency meal distribution. We came up with some creative ways to do our taste tests during remote and hybrid learning. And I finally got to do hands-on teaching towards the end of the school year. I started off the beginning of this school year really strong, jumping right into the hands-on lessons and taste tests. I made an effort to do as much outdoor learning as I could, so the kids got opportunities to work in the garden and plant and make observations about nature, and they always would ask as soon as I came in the room if we were going outside today. Here, some of my students were participating in the Hardcore Apple Crunch Challenge by Put Local on Your Tray, where they would eat a local apple down to the core. And I loved following up some of the activities we did in class with a school-wide taste test. Even during the winter time, we found opportunities to bring the outdoors inside, growing seeds right in the classroom. I found tons of these materials lists for when I would pack my cart to go out to the schools, and I found a bunch of shopping lists from my 7 a.m. runs to the grocery store. I got to teach a food science class to 6th graders this year, which was super fun. They would start every class by copying down the recipe and then see if they could follow it themselves. I'm happy to say that they finally learned that a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of salt are not the same thing. To this day, our most popular taste test has been our Three Sisters chili, and I still hope that someday it will be on the school menu. I also found that my students were way more likely to try a vegetable for the first time if they got to see how it grew and be part of that process. I always made an effort to connect my lessons back to school meals, because school meals are something that's never really talked about in the classroom despite being so important. Of course, lots of our lessons were about gardening. We did a unit on worms and composting. One of my favorite memories was bringing the worms to come visit the classrooms, even though it was the middle of winter. This kid actually tore the corner off of his paper and fed it to the worms, which I thought was great because really putting what we learned into practice. Another favorite memory was getting to go to the Thurston Food Show with Gail and Marin. Another thing we got to work on this year was helping to test out some new meatless menu items, which were delicious. I did some lessons on food traditions, and we talked about how we all have food traditions, whether we know it or not. And I even got to celebrate my birthday with my 3rd grade cooking class. I found that our magnifying glasses and rulers were the most used materials in my lessons. I especially loved having kids really observe a food for the first time before trying it. All throughout service, Marin and I became the unofficial graphic designers of the food service department. And that's pretty much the abbreviated version of my food corps scrapbook. So as I was putting my scrapbook together and going through the photos from the past 2 years, I realized I don't have a ton of photos of some of the people who guided and influenced me the most through service. So I want to shout out the food corps state team, the entire New Haven food service department, especially our food service director Gail and my site supervisor and manager Dave for supporting everything I've done in my service. Shout out to Marin, my co-service member, for making service so fun and always being down to team up. Shout out to the principals, teachers, cook leads, and food service workers who welcomed me into their schools and kitchens. And lastly, shout out to all the kids who I got to work with here in New Haven. There are so many little moments that I didn't photograph or save a scrap from for this book, but they're all a part of me now. I don't think I'm the same person I was when I started service 2 years ago, and this project has helped me reflect on my own personal growth alongside the contributions I've made to the community. I'm so excited to continue food justice work going forward, and I'll always be grateful to have my food corps years to flip through.